Hey everybody, good morning. It's April 26th, 2023. It's Wednesday. It's about 8:20 in the morning here in Eastern Time Zone. I'm going to just do a real quick look at the S&P 500. And at the very end of the video, I'm also going to take a real quick look at Bitcoin. Of course, before I get into all of this, as you know, this is not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. You're responsible for your own trades, managing your own risk, doing your own research, and this is just my opinion on the market. I'm going to do things just a little differently today, and let's just go ahead and move on into the S&P futures. Okay, so what I want to do, let me just kind of zoom out just a little bit here and just kind of talk about what I was looking at last night. This channel that I've got right here, let me just hide it for the time being, because what I'd like to do is just to kind of talk through what I've got here as our red trend line, the yellow trend line, before I get too much into the channel that I was looking at here. Okay, so what I've got a couple trend lines that are important. We've got the red trend line, which basically held as support over and over and over. So it started back here, we found support here, and then here again. And then really we started to break down around here. So we tried to find some support there, and then we started to break down a little bit. But then what ended up happening is we had a big rejection right here. So this is basically a breakdown out of the trend line that had been kind of holding us up for a while. And then down we go, and that's kind of what happened over the last 36 hours or so. Okay, so that's our red trend line, and then we've got this orange trend line here. So let me just kind of clean my arrows up a little bit. All right. So the orange trend line, this is going to go out a little ways longer. That's going to go down here to October. That's going to be our low of 2022. That was roughly 3,500. And then, of course, we have a touch right there. So we've got two touches. So in my opinion, this trend line is also pretty important. And as time goes by, this is going to, of course, be just extended out a little ways. And as we gravitate towards this, assuming that we do, and it's not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily have to happen, but if we do get to that point where we tap that trend line, I think it's going to be pretty important support. I think we can all agree that that is going to be pretty important support. Let's move down to a 2-hour time frame here. So the 2-hour time frame, showing again this low here and this low here as we are continuing to move up and out of here. Now, this trend line, let's talk about this one here for a moment. I'm going to change the color on it just a little bit, and you can kind of see a trend here. We're starting to create areas of support, and of course, as trend lines break down, it's going to be the next area that we're going to be looking at. So let me go to a 4-hour time frame here, and let me zoom out even more. Because what I want to look at, and I may actually need to go to maybe a daily for this, because that blue trend line, again, we're talking about creating at least two pivots, right? So we've got a pivot down here at the COVID low in March of 2020, and then we've got a pivot low down here, and that's again going to be in October of 2022. So I'm just going to do something really quickly here just to be curious. How long was that? That was 935 days. So that spanned about 2.5 years for us to get from this low, the COVID low, to this low of 2022. That was just last October, not that long ago. All right, so now that we've kind of established and identified these important trend lines, go back to a 1-hour time frame and just put these into perspective. All right, so we've got this blue trend line here, which is the trend line from the COVID low. We've got this orange trend line here. Maybe I should change the color, but I'm going to leave it for the time being. This is going to be that next important area of support, if and when we get there. And then we have our red trend line, which has already broken, and we've done this retest. Here is identified by this yellow bullseye. All right. Now, let me clarify one more thing before we dig into our channel. I've got a fib pulled from this dominant pivot low here at about 38.39 to this dominant pivot high up here at about 41.99, almost 4,200. So what we've got here is areas of support from a Fibonacci standpoint. So we've got the 382 at 4061, we've got the 50 at 4019, and then we have our golden zone here at about, we'll call it 3970. So is it likely that we're going to get down here to this 3970 area? I mean, time will tell, and that's all that I can really say about that. What I can say is the hourly wave master did identify a buy, and we actually we did a scalp long yesterday, basically right before the market closed, and exited it about, I don't know, maybe 445 or something along those lines. After we had the spike after earnings, we were able to capture a decent amount of points on that particular move using the NQ futures. But look at this again, we have completely reset and we've started to cross down. Now we do have some conflict here. Again, on the hourly wave master. Let me just zoom in just a little bit here, where, the hourly has kind of moved up to the midway, started to cross down, but the yellow wave has started to cross up a little bit. So in my opinion, today is probably going to be kind of a choppy day. As earnings have already passed for a few different companies, we're going to be looking for more earnings results later this evening and tomorrow especially. There's going to be some good earnings that are going to be announced this evening and also tomorrow. So likely it's going to chop. Now, what does this look like from an Elliott wave perspective? And to show that, I'm going to go down to an even lower time frame. I'm going to go to a 30. And if you've been looking at what I've been posting on TradingView, this is not going to be a surprise for you. So basically, I'm going to put this on here, then I'm going to remove it just for clarity. I see that we've got a 1, 2, and then we've got to move down here to a 3. We've got a 4, and then we've got a 5. So this looks to me a little bit like a leading diagonal. Excuse me. It looks like we have a little bit of a leading diagonal. We've got a little bit of compression here as we move down towards this low. Okay, so we've got a little bit of a compression, and then from there we've got a little ABC, and it's kind of an expansion. We have a little bit, we created a new lower low here, and then we created a higher high here, and of course, as we all know, we kind of broke down from there. So from this wave, this is what I'm most interested in, this move right here. So let me just go ahead and clean this up, get that out of the way, and let's focus on the move from the yellow bullseye. And I'm going to go down to a 15-minute to dive into this. All right, so from here, what I believe I'm looking at is from here a 1 and a 2, and then maybe a 3, 4, 5 here, but I'm thinking that probably the 3 is here. We're going to be going into the 4, and then we've got the 5 lower here. And let me explain why I think that. And the reason why I think that is because what I see here is a little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into a 1, correction up here into a 2, and then a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see here. Actually, it looks better here as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this would be our wave 3. This would be our wave 4, and then we've completed the wave 5 on, of course, a lower degree. All right, apologies for that. That makes the most sense because that again takes this subdivision, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we've got the wave 5 right there, of course, on our lowest degree. I don't particularly care to dig too much deeper than that. That's probably a little deeper than what I would like to do, but again, from right here, I can see a little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I can see 5 wave structures moving down. And again, looking at this as a wave 3, we should be going up here to a wave 4. So where would that wave 4 likely go? Well, I'm going to take this pivot here on the wave 2, go down here to the pivot here on the wave 3 that we've got so far, and we're going to be taking a look at a move more than likely to the 382, which is going to be, again, up here at about 41.17. And then that wave 5 target is going to be down here roughly between 40.72 to 40.61, somewhere in that general area. So that's what I'm looking at from an Elliott wave perspective on the wave that we're currently in right now. And again, that negative 382 would be a likely area for us to land. assuming that we do get a bearish move out of here. But again, the lower time frames, and again, I'm on a 15-minute, lower time frames indicate that we're likely going to trend up for the majority of the day today. And this wave 4 that I've got here goes all the way basically to 2 p.m. So you can see my clock at the bottom, and it's going at about the 1600 hour, which is 4 p.m. All right. So now that we've gone through that, let me go ahead and remove those counts and remove the fibs and get this a little cleaner, because what I want to focus on now is that channel that I was looking at. All right, so this channel I think is actually pretty darn important. Excuse me, because you can see where I've got these little red eyes, basically areas of support and resistance in this channel. And I've done an expansion on this as well, just to kind of illustrate the importance of this channel that we've seen basically all the way back here in March, on March 31st, almost a month ago. We've got area of resistance here, we've got some support here, resistance here and here, support here, and these are all just standard measurements off of this. So we've got the your 0 line, you've got your 1 line, you've got your halfway, which is going to be this green line right here, and we've got the 3/4, which I've got here at this point and this point right here, which we found as support twice so far. So that's important. And then, of course, we have our major expansions at the 1.5, which is this level here. You can see it blinking in the background. I'll move that over here. And then we've got the 2, which is going to be basically a 100% expansion off of this range from here to here, right? So if we do expand down, we're going to be basically looking for a significant move to the downside. And if we do get that, chances are pretty good it's going to take some time for this to work out. So again, potentially that move down here to that 40.61 area, we get another bounce up here, and then we start to see a more serious move to the downside. And, maybe it happens here on May 3rd, which would actually be like next Wednesday. Maybe it takes a little bit longer and we actually only get to about right here. And that would be, excuse me, past May 3rd, probably more into mid-May. Something like that would make a whole lot of sense. Going out to the hourly, what would that actually look like? Well, that would be a pretty significant move down. It would be a move down to this trend line, which I was talking about. It would also be a move down to this golden zone. Now, of course, nobody can predict the future. Nobody can say exactly where things are going to go. But what I can say is the move that we've seen here so far looks pretty impulsive, which means, again, a 1, a 2. This would be the completion of that wave 3. We go up for wave 4. Maybe it takes longer. And then we have a faster wave 5. And again, that wave 5, shoot, it may go all the way here. Again, this goes all the way out into May 11th. Maybe it doesn't happen as quickly down here on May 8th, going out to May 11th. That's a few weeks away. It's very reasonable to assume something like that might happen, assuming that, again, we've got the scenario. We've got a 1 and a 2 and a 3, wave 4, and then a wave 5. So what's going to keep me bearish? Okay, that's going to be the key, I think, for you guys. What's going to keep me bearish for the time being? Well, move out to a 30, and I think we can all agree that as long as we can stay below this wave 1, then I think we're going to be pretty bearish. That's going to be about 41.35. I don't want to see the ES futures get above 41.35. That is going to be a pretty important area that we need to stay below. If we violate 41.35, well, then I think it puts the whole structure at risk, right? Because even here where we've got this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So if we've got this, again, we still have to sort of stay below 41.30, right? The 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the 3, 4, 5. We got to stay below this area. As long as we can stay below this area right here, which I'll go ahead and gladly outline for you guys, this area right here, which again is identified by this pivot low here, this pivot low here, and these pivots right here in between. So that's going to be between, again, about 41.30 to 41.40. We need to stay below that in order to maintain a bearish stance. But keep in mind, I'm only looking to capture, at least for the short term, only looking to capture a move down to roughly 4,000, maybe that 39.75, which, by the way, would put SPX, the actual cash index, at about 39.50. Okay, that would be a great area to find a significant bounce, because what we're going to do is we're going to find buyers at 4,000, and in order to kind of wear out those bulls, breaking down below 4,000 is going to be a psychological barrier for the bears to push below to squeeze some of those longs out of their position. Keeping in mind, it's probably going to be a really great place to be buying once we get down to that area. Okay, so that's basically what I'm looking at for the time being on the S&P futures. All right, likely this move down here, probably into mid-May. You know, we've got that whole sell in May and walk away, whatever, right? But still, if we get down here to this area, especially if we stay in this channel, right? If we stay in this channel, that's ideal for an area to be buying. Now, where is that going to take us? That's another question. I still suggest that anywhere at or below 4,000 is going to be a great place to be buying. It's going to be a great place to be going long, even if it's for the short term. I think it's a great place to be looking for longs. And from there, then I do think we're going to see a rise. Probably it's going to go back up here to this 4,100, maybe even a little bit higher. Likely it's going to come back to where we are right now. That's what I'm really expecting, assuming that this happens. But again, it's going to take some time. Now, I'm not going to try and predict the future any more than I already have here, because again, this is not guaranteed. This is not guaranteed to happen. It may not happen at all. But so far, it does look impulsive, and I've already outlined the reasons why I say that. And I've also outlined the areas where I'm going to maintain a bearish posture. Once we get back up above this area, then I will reevaluate and make a decision from there. All right, so I've been talking about the S&P for about 16 minutes here, and I know I've got somebody waiting for my my ideas and thoughts on Bitcoin. So let's go ahead and move on into Bitcoin now. So for Bitcoin, it's been doing fantastic, right? So I've been saying for quite some time, like, I am not bearish on crypto. I am absolutely not bearish on crypto. You know, I've been taking a couple positions here and there, got stopped out of a couple of them, but nonetheless, like, when we were down here, I was like, I don't see any reason to be bearish. The S&P 500 was dropping all day yesterday while Bitcoin was going up. And as you can see here in the early hours of the morning, it's been going up even more. It just touched 30,000. So I still don't have any reason to be super bearish on Bitcoin. You know, again, potentially on our way back to new highs of the year. This is not a bearish structure for the time being. I don't have a reason to be bearish right now. Let's go ahead and move to a daily time frame, because what I do want to take a look at here is something on log scale. Something that I outlined to our members just a couple days ago. We're at an important area of resistance right now. Like at this very moment, we are at an important area of resistance. Break through this, and that is extremely bullish. Something that one of our members on the Discord pointed out is on the daily, Bitcoin's Wave Master looks just tremendous. And I mean, look at it. It really does. It's all the way down here and oversold. The last time the green wave on the Wave Master was this low was all the way back here, which happened to be at a dominant low. And the time before that was right back here at a dominant low. Again, from down here, pull back, push up to new highs. Pull back, reset the green wave, push up to new highs. Now we've seen this pull back again, and we're seeing a push up. Are we going to go to new highs? That's a great question. That is a great question. We got to get through 32,623 in order to really see a bullish breakout here. But again, looking at the structure from this high to this high right here, we're creating this channel, and watch this white trend line. We pushed up and out. we did a little bit of a retest, but here was a perfect retest. At the same time, that green wave was completely reset. And again, that green wave reset at the same time that the yellow wave and the red wave were still in that bullish control zone. Like, yeah, they had started to cross bearish, but they didn't look extremely bearish at the time, especially because that green wave completely reset. And the white wave especially, that looks still tremendous, right? And we've been talking about this for a while. You know, the white wave was flatlined down here below 20,000, right? It was flatlined down here for a while, and it could stay like that for a while. But again, you know, we had this bad news in November of 2022 with FTX. But I mean, look to see what's happened. We've just completely recovered and we've gone above and beyond. And I said at the time, like, this had to happen for the bigger players to be flushed out of their position. And you have to agree with me, big players got flushed out of their positions and, you know, lost their Bitcoins, capitulated, sold. You had a lot of people saying like crypto is dead, crypto's a scam, which by the way it is. But nonetheless, we saw a great move up and off of that. And we saw, you know, a great wave master buy back here on December 21st. You know, we had some warning signs here. We had one back here at 18,000, which if you bought there, you would be in significant profit. We had another great buy and opportunity down here as well, but the white wave was still moving down. Okay, and when you're using the wave master indicator, if that white wave is still moving down, you got to wait. And, you know, again, we had a buy signal here and a buy signal here, but that white wave was basically flatlined. It wasn't going anywhere. And then eventually we saw that move up and out, and that white wave has started to move up. Watch and wait to see what happens when that white wave gets up here into the bullish control zone, because again, it hasn't been this high, right? And actually on the Bybit exchange for the perpetual futures, you know, I don't have the history there. I'd have to go to a different chart to do that. So maybe I can go into BLX to get that data for us. It's probably going to be, let's see here. When was the last time the white wave looked like this? Honestly, the last time it looked like this was in 2019. Okay, you can see it right here. Got down here into oversold. We had several buying opportunities, 4 different buying opportunities. Let's just outline them here for the moment. Where were the buying opportunities when the wave master was calling a buy? At the same time, the white wave is down there. You know, we had a great one right around here, and that was about 3,300, 3,360. Another one was right here, and that was at about 3,500. We had another one right here, which again was at about 3,400. And I'm going to not count this one, but even if I did, still buying at 3,700, those would have been great areas to be buying, because obviously look to see what happened. We didn't violate those lows. Then now, again, we have this white wave, which was down here and oversold. And let's just outline, again, the same thing. When was the time where we were getting the good buy signals when the white wave was oversold? That was going to be right here at about 19,000. And then the next one was around right here, which was, again, on December 21st, December 22nd, at about 16,500. Now, where are we at right now compared to where that wave master was? The white wave, right? So it was roughly right here. So let's see here. We've got on the way up, you know, really we're about right here. So it does indicate, I mean, if we're trying to say that history repeats itself and it's going to do the same thing, yeah, we might be in a long drawn out downward move. Right, we may be in an area where, and again, I'm on BLX, so it's not showing the price action from today so far, because it freezes in time and it only changes as the daily closes. But you know, again, we could be in an area where we're going to enter a chop zone before we start to move down. But again, I'm not going to talk about alts right now. But what I will say is, alts are probably going to go on a run. And it's probably going to be when you least expect it. So, you know, position yourself appropriately, reasonably. Don't overexpose yourself. Don't get into super high leveraged longs. You know, and by the way, like, just be very careful if you're taking leverage positions. Know how to position yourself to where you're not going to lose your shirt if you get stopped out of a position. Because again, leverage, it can magnify gains, but it magnifies losses just the same. So If you're taking a 5x position and it moves 5% against you, you've lost 25% of your position. And I know if it goes in your favor, that's 25% gain, but you have to focus more on what you can lose versus what you can gain, because that's the most important thing that you should be paying attention to, is not what can I gain if I'm right. That's not the right mentality to have. It's what can I lose if I'm wrong, because that, again, is the most important part of all trading. So going back to this chart right here, again, going back here and taking a look at this daily, this looks pretty darn good. And from an expansion standpoint, where would things look if we were going to expand again, right? So let's go ahead and put a wave 4 on here. That's going to be that next area that I would be looking for an expansion if we do move up and out of here. So again, given time, up here to roughly 37,000 is likely to happen if we break out of this particular zone, especially if we take out the highs from April 14th, roughly April 14th. That's going to be at roughly at about 31,000, 31,100. Break through that, and given it a little bit of time, maybe by mid-May, right? And again, we've been talking about mid-May as it relates to the S&P 500. So mid-May, in terms of Bitcoin, watch to see what happens in mid-May, right? So again, sell in May and walk away, that whole saying. Wait to see what happens when we get up here, if we break out of this zone, because again, this level here at 30,000 is going to be pretty hard to push through, right? We've got a back test, right? A lot of people call this a bearish throwback, right? But we're in a bullish stance, at least for the time being, right? You can argue we've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves up. We've got a correction here. And then, what do we have? We've maybe a little 1, 2 in here, and then a 3, 4, 5. So a lot of people are saying that this move is done, which is why I'm saying that we really need to push up and out of here in order to open the door to this 37,000, right? Because again, we could be seeing rejection right here at this 30,000 level, and then just a continued move down. And I've been talking about supporting buys down here in this zone. So if we get back down here, yeah, I'm probably going to be a buyer on spot, not on leverage, but on spot. But again, this daily, it looks so good right now. Now, it doesn't mean that it can fail and just move down, but historically speaking, when we see a pivot, we usually see some kind of follow through on this daily. Just like back here, we saw a pivot. We had a little bit of pause, but it followed through. Down here, pivot, follow through immediately. Here, we had a pivot and a follow through immediately. Even right here, it wasn't down into oversold, but even here, we were moving sideways. The daily wave reset, it crossed up. We had follow through immediately. Okay, so when you start to see the pattern, you start to trust it. And with this white wave moving up, I have to say that the trend, at least for the time being, is up, even though we may see pullbacks, right? We may see a pullback here into this red zone, which again, would make me interested in buying into my spot Bitcoin position from what I have already sold. I'm interested in buying that back if we get down there. So that is now 28 minutes that I've been going on the S&P 500 and Bitcoin. So I really hope that this was helpful for all of you. If it was, feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and also sign up for alerts so you can be alerted when I post new videos. I haven't been doing them as much as I have in the past because I've really been focusing on quality over quantity. What I've found is, YouTubers that tend to spew a lot of videos out there, they're really just trying to gather attention. And I'm not interested in the attention. I'm more interested in the raw stuff. I'm interested in what matters the most and what is the most structural and actionable. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on moving forward. I do post pretty regularly on TradingView if you're interested in some of the updates on stocks and the S&P 500 and Bitcoin, maybe some cryptos here and there. So feel free to go follow me on TradingView and you can see some of the narratives that I'm posting on there as well. And if you need access to our Discord, if you need access to trades, the Wavemaster indicator, the momentum indicator, our volume analysis indicator, we've got several indicators which are all included in that access. You can find all of that information on bitdoctor.org. And last but not least, wherever you are in the world, I hope you're having a good day, a good night, and a great evening. Take care, everybody.